Hello everyone and welcome to this episode where we want to share with you stories, beautiful stories for children and why not for grown-ups as well. The first story in this series is Fram, the polar bear, written in 1931 by Cezar Petrescu, and is the beautiful story of a polar bear and his amazing life. This story is very close to my heart as the name Fram, which means forward in Norwegian, by the way, is the name of my beloved dog and friend, who was a beautiful soul and who is the living proof that our pets living among us humans become human-like. The story begins at the North Pole with the magical northern lights in the distance like a polar rainbow. There we find young baby Fram and his mom. There she teaches him about the ways of the polar bear life, to appreciate those icy magical lands where the polar bears are the most powerful creatures, and Fram, like any youngling, is listening mindfully. Mom is well aware of the limits of her kingdom and tells her cub that he should be good and never go too far away because there, in the distant horizon, dwells a creature more powerful than the polar bear, who has some kind of magic stick, and with that stick is capable of great destruction. And so, as they both stare at the dawn of the new polar day, the unthinkable happens, and a crew of Eskimos hunter is approaching from the distance. One of them shoots down Mama Bear, and so the cub, left alone, is taken away from his native lands and sold to some sailors on the Fram ship, who in turn sell the cub to an European circus for 10 bottles of rum. 10 years did Fram travel along with the great Strutsky circus, where he became the pride of the company, the bear who does all his stunts without a tamer. Don't get me wrong, there were amazing numbers like Miss Alien and her 12 Bengal tigers, or the acrobats, the skilled acrobats, but Fram was something else. After the tigers left, there was a relaxation in the crowd. Fram's appearance was well received. He was the eldest and the most powerful animal, born into the land of snow and eternal ice, tamed as a cub and understanding men like no other. With Fram there was no whip, no commanding look, no finger to show him or to remind him what to do. Cheers! That was his reward, and Fram loved the applause. It was obvious that he understood their purpose, that he was waiting for them, that he was enjoying them. All his wits that in the wild would have given him all the advantage is now being used for something else, for pleasing the little humans, out of love. He loved the applause, he loved the audience, he especially loved children. When he saw them gnawing on a candy, he stretched out his paw and greetings with the paw on his hand like a soldier. And if he happened to get more candy, he only stopped one for himself and giving the other candies to other children, as if he would have known that not everyone has sweets. Sometimes a brave child would come down to receive the gift. Fram caresses his crest with his big paw, which was becoming at once light and smooth as a mother's hand. Fram even knew how to box. He would wave his paw like in a joke, provoking someone to a fist fight. Of course, that people who came were circus employees, circus acrobats, and and they were pretending to fight. They were pretending to throw a punch, and then Fram would do a triple leap on his back and fell, which was so hilarious. Fram knew a lot. He knew how to ride a bike or a motorcycle. He knew how to play the harmonica, to clown around. Basically, he understood humor and he loved it all. But one day, as the circus was traveling in Northern Europe, he caught the sight and the smell of the north, and he suddenly was overwhelmed by a strange longing that he did not understand, and he became melancholic. His human friends at the circus saw that and understood the calling that Fram felt. And so, despite the fact that the circus director was a pretty greedy man, they announced a retirement show for Fram. And so, they raised all the money to send Fram back all the way to his homeland. So he left with a couple of courageous explorers to the North Pole. The ship was advancing slowly through the ice floes of the frozen ocean. Fram was standing on his two legs, his two front paws resting on the edge of the ship, on the deck sniffing, as if he could no longer bear to reach his destination. Then he suddenly took a plunge into the cold waters and swam home. The sailors waved him goodbye and threw some canned food for him, thinking that it might help Fram to survive until he would eventually readjust to the life in the wild. By now, Fram was so happy, enjoying with all his senses the beauties of the life in the frozen kingdom. He met some seals, he played with them, he rolled in the snow, and then he went out to eventually meet his fellows. It wasn't long before he met his first bear, a giant who looked at Fram very strange when Fram saluted him with the sailor salute, taking his paw right on his temple, and he went away in disgust. After a while, Fram saw a youngling, a young bear cub who was crying. He approached him tenderly, and he was shocked to hear that he was in fact an orphan and that his mom was killed by a larger bear just to take away her prey. Little did Fram know that the large bear was in fact the first bear he encountered on the shores, the dominant male on those parts. Fram took the little cub and went to find some shelter in a cave nearby, maybe the exact cave where Fram was living with his mother. But life is often unexpected in the north, and in their path appeared none other than the dominant bear, provoking Fram to a fight, not in a jest fight, but in a real fight. Fram was no usual polar bear though, remember? And he actually knew how to box, so he easily knocked off his opponent in a deep sleep. Thinking that that fight was lesson enough for the giant polar bear, Fram turned back to the little bear cub. But the little one did not understand why Fram didn't kill or wouldn't kill the polar bear, and claiming that that was the way of the polar bears, he strangled the giant sleeping bear, avenging his mother as well. It's in this moment that Fram realizes that in order to live at the North Pole, you have to kill, and that was not something that he was prepared to do, thus giving him the only choice to go back to the humans that he now understood better than his own kind. He said farewell to the bear cub and jumped on an ice patch, navigating away from the northern shores. He traveled for days when he caught a familiar scent, and on approaching, he discovered the exact two explorers who brought him back. They were trapped under some snow, and things were not looking good for them. Fate was smiling upon them as Fram knew exactly what to do. He dragged them closer and he sat on them to warm them up. Shortly, they recovered, but they were paralyzed with fear seeing a huge animal on top of them. But Fram took a few steps back. He raised onto his back paws and made the sailor salute. I guess life has its ways of surprising us, humans and non-humans alike. So they all went to the boat that was waiting not too far and sailed away to the mainland. This was the story of Fram the polar bear. What do you think about it? Let me know please in the comments below, and also write your opinion if you imagine, a different ending to this story, like Fram never leaving the humans, or like Fram remaining to live with the youngling in the North Pole. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one.